Hello and welcome everyone to this new video on Azure, and the topic for today is how to use Azure pricing calculator to compute the cost of virtual machines running in Azure using managed versus unmanaged disk. Now, if you're not familiar with using Azure pricing calculator, you can do a quick search in Google and that will take you to the Azure pricing calculator page. So I am on the pricing calculator page, as you can see. So you can go under the featured or you can go under compute and you'll grab the virtual machine section and click on the view button, and here will be pricing two virtual machine. One will be a SQL server using managed disk and the other one will be a file server using unmanaged disk, and see what are the different options in that. So let's create one. So let me give the name of the first virtual machine SQL server, and in the region, as you can see that Azure has multiple region across the globe, and whichever is closest to you, you can pick that one. Because I'm in Toronto, I will select Canada Central because that is the closest to me and it is located in Toronto region, but you feel free to use whichever location you want. In my case, I'll use the operating system Windows. You can use either Linux or Windows, and it will be a SQL server. So let me pick the SQL server, and under the tier you can use a basic or you can use a standard. So if you can see, if I select the basic one, I have very few options when it comes to the virtual machines that I can deploy, but if I use the standard, it gives me many more options of the kind of virtual machine or the series of virtual machine I can use. Basic is generally used for test and development, but if you're using for production environment, you want to deploy that, I'll recommend use the standard. You have more options, and in the licensing, for me, standard will be okay. So I'll select standard, and as you can see that now you have the button of managed disk. Now managed disk is a new concept in Azure which has been added recently. Now if you're using or want to deploy Azure virtual machine, I'll highly recommend that you use the features which comes with the managed disk. And some of the options that are there is that, as you know, when you want to deploy a VM, you need to create a storage account, but with the usage of managed disk, Azure takes care of that. You don't need to worry about that. So and also when you create a storage account, maybe and you're creating an availability set, your storage account might fall under one storage unit. So in case your machines are still in the availability set, in case one storage account goes down, it takes away the whole storage unit. But with managed disk, all the storage account are deployed in separate managed disk. So that's another great reason why you should be using managed disk. And another thing to keep in mind is that with managed disk, you get the capability of snapshotting. Now in case you delete a virtual machine, if you have the snapshot of the virtual machine, you can restore the point by using the snapshot. So I will definitely want to use the managed disk option for my SQL server. And from the instance size, as you can see that you have many options, but for this server, I would like to prefer D3V2, which is a 14 gig RAM. I'll grab this one, and I will select one virtual machine, and as you can see that it's 744 hours, so it is basically running 24/7, 31 days a month. So 31 times 24 is 744. But if you know that you won't be using your SQL server throughout the whole day, you can change it accordingly, because as you know that all the public cloud vendor including Azure will charge you depending upon for how long your servers are running in their environment. But for this, I'll keep this as if they are running 24/7. And in the managed disk, you can see that you can select different disk size, and let me expand this, and you have the option of S series and you have the option of P series. The difference between the two is S series are the regular spinning hard drive, which we know, and P series are the flash drive, or commonly called the solid state hard drive. Now, because it's a SQL server, it's a very resource intensive, so I would like to have a premium disk in this case, and you have the option of going from 32 gig up to 4 terabytes. So as you can see that this is also new option which has been added by Azure. The maximum disk size was 1 terabyte, but just recently they have included the maximum size up to 4 terabyte, both for the premium and for the standard or the spinning hard drive. So in my case, 128 gig is enough, so I'll select that. And as I was talking about the snapshot, you get the option of snapshotting too. So yes, I would like to have snapshot, and I can make it one disk, and you can also specify over here what size of snapshot you want to have in gigabytes. So let me make it say 30 gig, but obviously you can change. So as you can see that as you change the number here, the price obviously changes for 30 gig. So you're looking at around $4.32. And actually, let me just change the currency to, I just forgot to change, so I'm in Canadian dollar. I'm gonna want to have this in Canadian dollars, so let me move that to Canadian dollars. So as you can see that my managed disk were added. I have selected the premium because it's a SQL server, and you can see the cost is on an average $957 with all the snapshotting capabilities that I have. Now let me just pick another virtual machine, and in this case now we won't be taking any or including any managed disks. We'll go to the storage and add that. So let me just pick that, click on view, and I would like to pick my region. Operating system will be a Windows operating system in this case, and it will be an OS only. And in the tier size, again, you have basic, low priority, or standard. And as I said that that there are different types of virtual machine which will be in this tier level, but standard is the one which is recommended. And for this, I won't be picking up any managed disk. So let me select the instance, and for this machine, which is gonna be a file server, actually let me just put the file server, I'll pick the D1 V2 1 core. Obviously you can select, there are different options available. Just because for this demonstration I'll pick the one with a 3.5 gig of RAM. And the thing that I want to mention is that, as you can see, and a lot of people they get confused, is that 50 gig of temporary storage, and it is available. So when you create the virtual machine in Azure, you get a C and D drive, and this is basically the temporary storage which Azure uses for its own purpose. It is not recommended that you use this space for storing any data, because in case the machine is restarted and everything, you can lose the whole data on this one. So it is highly recommended that you use a separate storage or separate data disk attached to the virtual machine, and don't save anything on the temporary storage. So because I have not added the managed disk, it didn't give me the option. So what we'll do is, so again we kept 744 hours, so it's working 24 hours a day. So let me go back to the option in pricing calculator, and now we'll select storage. So let me grab storage and pick this and click on the view button. And again you have to select the region. So in my case I'll select Canada Central, and in the blob, it's in the type, there are different options. You can use blob, file, table, queue. But when it comes to attaching the storage to the virtual machine, we are either using a managed disk, which is a new way of doing, or we are using unmanaged disk and page blob. We are not talking about the blob storage or file or queue. That is used for saving your unstructured data and all different kind of, or for the storage which is using the SMB protocol, those kind. But in this case we'll be using the unmanaged disk and page blob disk. So another thing to keep in mind. And again, the tier is standard or premium. Again, you get a solid state versus the regular spinning. I will select the solid state, and in redundancy you can have locally redundant storage. So locally redundant storage means that it allows you to have 3 copy within one region. And actually, let me just show you for the standard option too. When you select standard option, you have the option of GRS, LRS, and RAGRS. So GRS is geo redundant storage. So basically, you will have 6 copy, 3 per region, which is separated by a certain distance. So if you're talking about Canada, we have 2 regions when it comes to Azure. One is Canada Central, which is in Toronto, and the other one is I think Canada East, which is in Quebec City. So in case I use GRS, you'll be having 3 copies per region, and RAGRS is actually very similar to GRS, which is 3 copies per region. The only thing is that you also get the read access to the secondary region. So in this case, if I select RAGRS, I can also read from the Quebec City or the Canada East region, which is going to be my fault domain in that. So actually, let me just keep it standard rather than premium in this case, because I get more options, and I'll pick the GRS. And for this file server, I will like to attach a 1 terabyte of capacity. It's going to be 1 terabyte of data that I can store, and in the transaction unit, so basically how much data you're pulling, and that is computed on that. So let me just make it say 50, 50, just to give you an idea. And you can see that for 1 terabyte of geo redundant storage, it is on an average $141.96 dollar per month. So we got our file server with the unmanaged disk. We got the SQL server also with us too, and you can see that we have computed how much is going to be the cost for this. So this video was dedicated on how to use the Azure pricing calculator for pricing your virtual machine, which is using managed versus unmanaged disk. I hope you found this video useful. Thanks for watching. Have a good day.